Welcome to the Storj Labs Town Hall. We'll start with a forward-looking statement. This document contains forward-looking statements about our product direction. The development, release, and timing of any features or functionality described for our products remains at the sole discretion of Storj Labs. The information herein is not a commitment to deliver any material, code, or functionality and should not be relied upon in making purchase decisions. Our agenda today is first an executive summary, DCS and network updates, roadmap product update, People Ops, token governance and compliance, and then we'll close out with community. Our speakers are Ben Golub, Chief Executive Officer, Catherine Johnson, Chief People and Legal Officer, Head of Compliance, John Gleason, Chief Operating Officer, and myself, Jocelyn Matthews, Community Manager. We're going to start now with an executive summary from our CEO, Ben Golub. Ben?
Thank you, Jocelyn. And as always, thank you to our community and thank you to everybody who's joined us for this call. This is a very exciting town hall update for us. While we do these on a regular basis, this is one where we have a lot to announce. As you know, we went into general availability a little over a year ago. And while we were focusing on customers and executing on partnerships and running an enterprise-grade service, over the past several months, we've also been engaged in a major relaunch covering almost all aspects of our business, product, positioning, pricing, which we'll be talking about in a bit, which was our DCS or Decentralized Cloud Services launch, and I'll share details on that later. We've also navigated the Ethereum scaling issue successfully and have integrated level 2 solutions for payouts and continued our commitment to privacy via third-party cookie removal. Looking into the remainder of Q2 and beyond, we've got a ton of work to be doing post our DCS launch. Again, that DCS launch was significant not only in terms of the amount of work that we did and the changes in the product, but also very, very fortunately in terms of the results that we're seeing in terms of customer and user growth. So there's a continued focus, obviously, on customers, partners, usage, and adoption. But a few other important things have happened, including open sourcing DRPC, which went to great success, ensuring the long-term success of our node operator community, continue to work on scalability and performance. And now that we have essentially delivered our first white paper, we're going to be doing a second white paper talking in detail about things like community satellites and other aspects of our journey towards decentralization. And of course, as always, continued improvement on customer onboarding and user experience. So I'd like to start with talking about the DCS and network launch. This was, again, a very significant launch for us as a company. And I'll take a step backwards and just talk about the goals for doing this. As we know, there are a lot of things that are important to developers and enterprises as they're looking and considering things like decentralized storage. A large part of what's driving the movement is concerns about security and privacy. And quite frankly, we're in a situation right now where cloud storage, if it means centralized cloud storage, means in essence storing your data with one of the 3 largest companies on the planet who also happen to be in the business in one form or another of selling data. And so for many customers, this is something that's antithetical to them in terms of privacy. And in general, we believe that anytime you store data in plain text in a centralized location, you're already well down the road toward a less robust security posture. We try to address that. Of course, customers want what they're already getting from the cloud services, which is reliability, availability, and durability, as well as performance. We know that customers care a great deal about economics. And as you may be aware, although the amount of data that's being stored in the cloud doubles roughly every year, prices have only been coming down by about 5% a year. And this is a huge issue for people. Not only the raw price of storage, but also the egress fees and extras that the large providers tend to stick people with. We're trying to address that. Compatibility and ease of adoption. While customers are very interested in using something like storage, they want to make sure that it can happen easily, that they can use their existing applications, existing APIs, and not have to make major changes to their infrastructure. Customers are telling us time and time again, both the developers and the enterprises, that they want to avoid complex cost structures, they want to avoid complex technology frameworks, they want the ability to choose and not be locked in. And finally, they recognize that data is increasingly created, distributed, analyzed at the edge, and they want to take advantage of that, as well as newer things like zero trust architectures and default encryption. And we believe that decentralized cloud storage, both as a concept as well as a product, can inherently address all of these. So over the past 7 months, we have been hard at work. While we felt that our initial offering was very, very strong, we felt it could be even stronger in terms of economics, stronger in terms of product, and stronger and more clear in terms of positioning. So we tried to address all of those, essentially all of the 4 or 5 Ps, depending on what your framework is. But in terms of the product, a major change to our product with the hosted gateway MT, which I'll talk about in a bit, which is a hosted gateway that is hosted in Equinix. It's about a number of different advantages. We compound that with addressing a significant issue for many customers, which is the ability to, as they split their files into 64 megabyte chunks, upload those in parallel. We now have the ability to do that. All of our satellites are now multi-region, adding even greater durability and greater availability. For those node operators who provide multiple nodes, we've created a new multi-node dashboard. And because we put the hosted gateway in place, we're now able to do a number of things, including have a first-time user experience that doesn't require the customer to install anything, do it all via browser, which gets them onboarded and gets them very quickly to what we like to call the aha moment, where they can see their files uploaded and see them distributed across 80 or more different nodes around the world. We've done other updates as well around Reed Solomon and ongoing performance increases. So a lot on the product side. In addition to making changes to the product, a radical change in our pricing. Prior to the DCS launch, we were 1/2 to 1/3 the price of AWS. Because of many of the advantages that we've gotten, or at least partially because of the many advantages that we've gotten in terms of bandwidth economics from launching Gateway MT and being hosted in Equinix, we've been able to support a much lower price. So we are now coming out the gate at 1/5 to 1/10 the price of AWS, Google, and Azure. And this is in large part made possible by the changes that we had for Gateway MT and Equinix. And at least right now, we're not making any changes to our storage no payout rate. The storage node operators are the backbone of our network, and we want to support them and give them a predictable experience. Of course, long term, we want to make sure that the economics work. And we think that the best thing that we can do for storage node operators is make sure that they have well-utilized storage nodes, which means that we will be constantly playing with pricing. But we believe that we're now in a position where we're getting lots of increased demand, and we have a much lower cost structure that allows us to give much lower prices to customers without having to, at least for now, force major changes in snow payout. This allows us to not only compete with the large players like AWS, Google, and Azure, but we now are lower cost and better value than all of the low-cost competitors like Backblaze and Wasabi, not only for the archive and the backup use cases, which they support well, but of course, we also support use cases which they're not designed for, like video and software distribution. We also now have the most competitive free tier in the market, which we're very excited about. We want to make it easy for developers to get started with no gotchas at the end of that. We're multi-region at no additional price, important for people who care about durability and availability and performance. We've implemented very user-friendly egress policies for people who are storing with us primarily for a backup purpose and they want to leave. We won't charge them if they want to take their data out. And for those who want to use us for data serving purposes like video or software distribution, we have very low price egress and very clear, straightforward pricing. Equally importantly, because we now have the ability to work with the Gateway MT, which has peering relationships, it's much easier to do things like cloud migration and centralized cloud compute combined with decentralized cloud storage. All in all, very excited about the pricing changes. And finally, we've cleared up our positioning in our brand. We've gotten rid of the tardigrade brand and solidified things under the DCS brand, simplified brand design, cleared positioning, cleared messaging, and an entirely new website and user flow, which, as you'll see in a moment, is doing wonderful things for us in terms of our ability to drive new users through. And we've done this all in a privacy-centric way so that while we're able to get the right information in order to improve the experience, we are not in any way violating privacy. In fact, we have one of the strongest privacy stances in the market. So a lot underway. I'll just double click on a few items. The first and perhaps the most important is making the Gateway MT available. So if you look on the right side of the slide, you'll see what was our traditional setup with Gateway single tenant. This is where customers would locally host an S3 gateway or lib uplink from their local environment. After installing the gateway would then do the encryption and the erasure coding, push it up to the nodes and push the metadata up to the satellite. And this is wonderful for many things and one of the highest levels of security, a true know-nothing architecture, but it was very difficult for most customers to get started this way. So we now have an option where instead of the customer hosting their own gateway, we have a gateway which they're able to use. We host that at Equinix. We provide server-side encryption and erasure coding from the gateway, so less data needs to be uploaded from the customer. We are still doing highly secure way, which we talk about on our site, but for many customers, this is fantastic. It's nothing to install, a much easier first-time user experience, and because there's peering with Equinix, it means low-cost, high throughput for multi-cloud environments for pushing from the gateway, both on upload and download. It makes many use cases possible, such as web apps in the browser, and provides even greater S3 compatibility. Again, we're offering both options, both the traditional Gateway ST and Gateway MT, but this single change has opened up a huge variety of things for us. As I mentioned, we've also clarified our naming. We now have Storj DCS, which refers to everything that Storj offers commercially. So we've retired the tardigrade brand, and we have adopted a clear naming for our open source project, which is unsurprisingly Storj OSP, Storj Open Source Project. Clear branding around those. And this now allows us to position Storj DCS, we think, in the right way with the product, matching up with the branding, matching up with the messaging, that we're enabling developers to upgrade their AWS storage to achieve significant gains in security and privacy, global edge performance, much better economics, and of course, ease, freedom, and flexibility, offering huge advantages in security and privacy, and performance and scalability, and economics. And what are the results of all this? Well, it's been a little bit less than a month, so we don't want to promise too much, but we're very excited by what we've been seeing. We're now up to 13,000 node operators in 90 countries. We're now up to just shy of 25,000 customers, and over 6,530 of those were added just in the 3 weeks since we launched. So a huge increase in the rate of having new customers join, continuing to be very excited about our durability and our availability, but also very important, we're seeing conversions improve throughout. So the fact that users don't have to install anything, the fact that that's a much better first-time user experience means that users landing on the site are signing up for accounts, and those who are signing up accounts are moving very quickly to upload and download data. We're all very exciting for us. And then surprisingly, customers are having a great experience. They're starting to use us. We're starting to see things start to happen even more on the sales side as well. Very promising pipeline and partner growth. We're seeing much larger customers, and in particular, some significant reseller activity, especially in Europe, where the security and privacy messaging seems to be especially important. So we're very excited, and of course, the more users and data we have, the more sustainable the network becomes, the more revenue potential for storage node operators, all around a good thing for decentralized storage at Storj and in general. We're also now supporting a much broader set of use cases, and this is a number of the use cases that we talk about, including video storage and streaming, cloud-native applications, of course, software and large file distribution, and the much better and much more cost-effective and much better performance around backup and archival. So all in all, a great set of changes for us, and we're starting to see the momentum both in users and now increasingly in revenue. Of course, you don't need to listen to us. You can listen to what others are saying. You can see some of the news that came out right when we launched. Nice coverage across a variety of industry sources. Also, a really nice activity on the social media front and very positive messages, as you can see here, across both traditional social media outlets as well as, exciting for us, more developer-centric outlets. And you can read these at your leisure. But we're excited that people seem to be very excited about the product, its ease of use, its performance, and of course, its price point. We're also very excited that we were joined in this launch or shortly thereafter by a number of world-class partners. We recently announced with DataStax an integration with Pulsar. You can read what's been said here. A nice quote from the folks at Jonar Labs, and Plesk and cPanel have now gotten storage available and is integrated and available on over 900,000 servers and millions of websites worldwide. So great progress towards getting mainstream usage of storage and decentralized cloud storage. All right, I'll talk a little bit about what we have ahead of us this quarter. As you might imagine, we've got continued work, of course, to finish up the remaining loose ends from the DCS launch. You should expect a major performance improvement coming from us, although we're excited about the performance now. We've got a set of things, and between the latency improvements from this project, which we call the Quick project, and the enhanced throughput that we get from being hosted within Equinix and having a reduction in the amount of data that clients need to upload, expecting really fantastic performance on top of already good performance. More connectors, improved Linux installs for the storage node operators, some node operator payment changes, including 1099 tracking, availability of level 2 solutions for storage node operators, and of course, continued improvement on first-time user experience. And very important for us, now that we have delivered in essence, everything that we put in our white paper, we now are going to be working on our next white paper, which will have a particular focus on achieving further decentralization, especially as regards both the satellites and now Gateway MT as a potential object for community members to host. More about that later. As we're moving forward on the product, we also want to continue to move forward as a company. One of our values is transparency. As you go through the site, you may notice, in addition to what we have already talked about in terms of security and the product and being open source, we've added a section to our website, which is disclosures, which is in essence everything that we as a company feel you should understand and that we ourselves are not yet satisfied with. So it talks about what work we have left to do around security encryption, what work we have left to do with satellites in order to get them more fully decentralized, inline segments, remaining work to be done on S3 compatibility, pricing notes, performance notes, etc. We think this is important for us in terms of fulfilling this goal of transparency. We also know that users and community members care a lot about data. And so while we have been traditionally reporting data on a regular basis in forums such as this, we're now making an API available, which will have network statistics available so that data can be analyzed, presented by the community in real time. And you can see some of the things that we have off to the side in terms of what we'll be making available. Finally, I wanted to touch on something that's important to many in the crypto community. Although we consider ourselves a decentralized storage company first and a crypto company distinctly second, we understand that a lot of people have been concerned about cryptocurrency, in particular proof of work cryptocurrencies and blockchain applications because of the environmental impact. And so I wanted to address that a little bit today. First of all, When we started Storj, a strong motivation was to be a green alternative to cloud computing. As you may know, it takes no additional power to run a node at 75% capacity versus at 25% capacity. And we're very excited by the fact that we could build what has in essence been a 50 petabyte data center without pouring a single bag of concrete, without starting up a new power plant, without having to break ground, without having to use a backhoe, without having to buy equipment, and without having to actually ask for any new power to be generated. So we're convinced that decentralized storage, done the way Storj does it, will be a far greener alternative than cloud computing. We've also made several important design decisions in the way that we built Storj. So unlike other decentralized options, we don't ask our node operators to do any expensive, wasteful operations. Cryptographic proofs within Storj are cheap and easy if you're storing what you say you are. And as a result, our node operators are a wide variety of individuals and organizations all around the world. You don't have to have specialized rigs. Actually, we've surveyed our storage node operators. 80% of them are using existing equipment. We think this is more democratic. It's more secure. It means that we're global. We're not just a few nodes in China, but in fact, we're fully globalized and far more environmentally friendly. We're not generating the kinds of power draws or equipment draws of the use of specialized chips that some of the proof of work blockchains do. In fact, we didn't create our own blockchain. We sit on top of Ethereum. And while Ethereum is a proof of work blockchain, it is moving to proof of stake. And in the meantime, we have provided a level 2 alternative, which will reduce our footprint during the time between Ethereum being on proof of work now and moving to proof of stake in the future. And more to come. So we're very excited about what we're doing to make sure that decentralized cloud storage is, in fact, a green alternative and not something that is environmentally harmful. All right, I've been talking a lot, and pictures say a lot more than words. And of course, videos say even more than that. So with that, I'd like to turn things over to John Gleason, who will give you a fun demonstration of the new Storj and the new Storj DCS. John?
Thanks, Ben. I love talking with customers and partners about Storj DCS, but my favorite thing is showing people a demo. Today, I'm going to provide a brief demonstration of the Storj DCS satellite console sharing and streaming a 4K video. The Storj DCS satellite admin console supports uploading and managing objects directly through the object browser with no additional tools required. This component uses our hosted S3 compatible gateway service and server-side encryption. When you use the object browser, you'll be prompted to create an access grant so that the web console can interact with your data. You'll be prompted to enter an encryption passphrase, then we'll be able to access your data through the browser. Save this encryption passphrase somewhere safe. Access management for applications storing and retrieving data on Storj DCS is managed with access grants. An access grant is a security envelope that contains a satellite address, a restricted API key, and an encryption key. Everything an application needs to interact with the Storj DCS service. Access grants coordinate two parallel constructs, encryption and authorization, in a way that makes it easy to share data without having to manage complex access control lists or encryption tools. Both of these constructs work together to provide a client-side access management framework that's secure and private, as well as extremely flexible for application developers. The access grant for the object browser is unique because in an effort to protect privacy, it's generated and retained only as long as you're using the object browser. That's why you'll need to re-enter the encryption passphrase every time. When you access the object browser, you'll be able to see the contents of buckets that have been encrypted using the encryption key derived from the encryption passphrase that you entered. I've already uploaded a 670 meg 4K video called Big Buck Bunny, copyright 2008 Blender Foundation. When the video was uploaded, it was uploaded to the S3 gateway using multi-part upload. Distributed and decentralized object storage is optimized for large objects, and if your app uses multi-part upload, you'll want to configure the default multi-part upload part size to use 64 meg parts. If your application doesn't use multi-part upload, or uses parts larger than 64 meg, the gateway will break your object into 64 meg segments before encrypting the segments and erasure coding them. As the video was sent to the gateway, the 64 meg segments were encrypted by the gateway using the encryption key in the access grant registered with the gateway auth service. Next, the segments were erasure coded, meaning they were broken up into at least 80 pieces, of which only 29, and that's any 29, are required to reconstitute each segment. During upload, the gateway contacts the satellite to get a list of storage nodes on which to store the pieces. The satellite returns more than 80 storage node addresses. The gateway uploads pieces peer-to-peer in parallel directly to the storage nodes. The gateway stops attempting to upload pieces once 80 pieces have been successfully uploaded to at least 80 storage nodes. The process is completed once all the parts, segments, and pieces are uploaded, and then the object is committed. Now that sounds very complicated, and under the hood, there's quite a bit of complexity to orchestrate. The good news is that all that complexity is abstracted away to a few simple commands for developers. Now, if I want to share this video with somebody else, I can directly create a shareable link or view the details of the video, then generate a shareable link from the detail view. The detail view shows me a preview of my object, but it also shows me a map with the geolocation of the storage node storing the 800 plus pieces of my video. Now, when I first click Generate Share Link, a couple of things happen. First, an access grant is created and registered with the auth service for the gateway. Then, a URL is generated for the link sharing service. When I paste that URL into a browser, I get a similar view as the details screen with a preview of my video and the node map. Now here's the best part. When I play the video, I'm streaming that video from Storj DCS. I don't have to download the entire video first. What's more impressive is that I can seek to any point in the video. On the back end, the gateway is locating the exact piece needed out of the 800 plus pieces, and then the range of bytes within that piece, downloading, re-encoding, decrypting on the fly, and then streaming the bytes to the browser. Again, the performance is very smooth, and all of that complexity is abstracted to a familiar set of S3 compatible commands. And those same simple functions are available in the CLI and the developer library. Now, imagine if instead of an animation, this was a patient's CAT scan video, or a security video, or just a private video shared in a secure messaging app. Access can be managed at an extremely granular level so that private data stays private, and only those who should have access get access. This should give you a good understanding of Storj DCS, an overview of how it works, and how it's different from traditional approaches to cloud object storage. Everything you need to be successful with Storj DCS is in our documentation at docs.storj.io. When you're ready to try it for yourself, go to storj.io and sign up for a free account. Then join our community at forum.storj.io. Back to you, Jocelyn.
Thanks for that demo, John. Next up, we have Catherine Johnson with People Ops, Token Governance, and Compliance. Catherine?
Normally, I report just on the token flows report. This time, I'm very happy to provide an update on our diversity, equity, and inclusion activities at Storj. As you know, this week marks the anniversary of the killing of George Floyd, who was a member of my community here in Minneapolis. As a company with a presence in Atlanta, where we have been saddened by anti-Asian murders this year, and Minneapolis, where we are scarred by police brutality motivated by racial hatred, Storj has particular responsibilities to its community and employees. While we don't have the same reach or resources of larger organizations, we must do our part to address injustice and promote equity. For us, it's not enough to say that Black Lives Matter. We believe it's necessary to take action. When faced with the stark realities of inequality, it seems there is never enough you can do to make things right, but we are doing what we can to make a difference. Our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion report is being published this week to share with others the actions we have taken, to publicly measure the impact of our efforts, and to preview our plans for the road ahead. We believe this level of transparency is necessary to keep ourselves accountable. Over the past year, as a company, we've implemented a number of initiatives designed to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. For metrics and reporting, we began tracking the demographics of our workforce and include a metrics report with our DEI report so you can see the breakdown of our team and leadership by gender, race, and ethnicity. As part of our effort toward continuous improvement of our hiring practices, we implemented measures to insulate the process from unconscious bias. We put in place a mentoring program to support our team members across the company personally and professionally. Other initiatives include measures to promote connection between employees and company leaders, to empower new hires to navigate our remote-first culture, to formalize processes relating to training, performance management, and promotions, to continue DEI awareness training throughout the year, to identify and address any gender or racial equity gaps. We also perform annual audits of compensation across the company. The metrics report provides a snapshot of where we are, including that 26% of our workforce are women and almost 30% are people of color. Many tech companies struggle to diversify at the leadership level. As a company started by a Black founder who sits at the C-level and serves on the board, Storj has a clear commitment to diversity at every level. We've broken down the numbers both at the C-level, where 33% are people of color, and in our directors and managers level, where 42% are people of color. Our efforts in 2020 have had a significant impact, as evidenced by our hiring in the period April 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2021, when more than half of our hires were women and people of color. But it's not just the numbers that matter. We will continue to keep ourselves accountable in the coming months through expanding our hiring and retention efforts, including rolling out our very first internship program, connecting with others who are looking to increase diversity in tech and featuring successful underrepresented people in tech, expanding our mentoring and professional development to grow leaders from within, and continuing to act on our company-wide commitments. Recently, the company contributed to stop AAPI efforts with matching grants by executives. We expect this kind of work to continue. Finally, we will continue to track our progress and challenges as we move forward on the path to greater diversity, equity, and inclusion at Storj. Next, we can move on to our regular token balances and flows report. As you may know, we provide a written report every quarter that shows the balances of storage token and how we have used the storage tokens from our operating supply, as well as a report on our rolling time lockups. As for balances and flows this quarter, we started and ended the quarter with 214.4 million tokens in long-term lockups. We had 25.6 million storage tokens in our operating supply at the beginning of the period. We used 0.4 million on node operator payments, 1.2 million on service provider payments, 1.5 million on storage employee payments, and 3.5 million in other payments, all as described in our written report. This left 19 million storage tokens in our operating supply at the end of the period. Turning now to our time locks, we report every quarter on the tokens that are in rolling time locks. Advance notice has to be provided if a tranche due to unlock won't be relocked. Previously, that notice period was 90 days. It's been reduced, as described in our written token report, to 60 days to provide sufficient time to plan and inform the public. The goal of these lockups, which began in 2017, the year of the last token sale, was to ensure there was enough runway to realize our vision of building the most secure, decentralized cloud storage platform in the world. The 7 cryptographically locked rolling tranches limit the ability of storage to impact the circulating supply, providing transparency and predictability to the ecosystem. As we describe every quarter, when one tranche unlocks at the end of the quarter, we relock it and schedule it to unlock at the end of the corresponding quarter 2 years later. So a tranche that unlocks at the end of Q1 2021 will be relocked until the end of Q1 2023, and so on. As reported in 2020, one tranche was unlocked and those storage tokens were put into operational reserves. The subsequent tranche was relocked to preserve the pattern of one tranche unlocking every quarter. We will continue to provide transparent updates every quarter with our written reports and as part of this town hall. All of the written reports also are available on our blog.
Thank you, Catherine. And now we'll move to the final section, community, what the community is up to and where we're going in the future. My name's Jocelyn, and I'm the community manager here at Storj. Along with the rest of the community team, Alexi, Bree, and Knowledge, we help to facilitate discussions, assist with node operator and developer how-tos, and generally provide inspirational activity around DCS. One of the things that we are currently working on is to continue to keep the node operators flourishing. We wear multiple hats, and to the community, we represent the company, and to the company, we represent the community. We continue to have a deep commitment to making our documentation as robust and complete. We know that having really good documentation is a key part to a happy onboarding experience. Storj strongly believes that the community is a force multiplier, and that by building a strong community, we will build a stronger product and a stronger company overall. Because of that, our value and our focus is to the community, and your success is our success. We continue to build community alliances in the industry, including partnerships, talks, webinars, podcasts, guest blogs, and case studies, apps, and proof of concepts from the community are popping up all the time. For engineers and devs who are feeling stuck, we will try to assist however we can. We're also continuing to shepherd and reward community author projects. You may have seen some of them, such as the PHP and .NET bindings. There are 2 community contributions I'd like to highlight in this town hall. First, I've got a shout out for Maya Pizzarus for her work on Node.js bindings for DRPC, our code-wise drop-in replacement for the client-server interactions of gRPC. We built DRPC for our needs and invited developers to contribute language bindings in our post on our blog, and Maya rose to the challenge. If you aren't familiar with DRPC, please go check it out on our blog and on GitHub. Second, I'd like to give a general shout out to the node operators who have provided feedback on our continuing efforts to reduce friction around high Ethereum transaction fees. We are early pioneers in rolling out L2 solutions, and the feedback from the community has been thoughtful and thorough. We've taken that feedback into account to ensure our strategy with Layer 2 works for the community. We look forward to keeping the conversation going as we find the right balance between cost, efficiency, and scale. Regardless of what the future holds for Layer 2 and Ethereum scaling, we're committed to ensuring that being a node operator remains economically rewarding, and that we're building toward a successful future for the network together. I'd like to give a couple of shout outs to our community for all the great things that you do, but also for the feedback that you generate. We've been using community members with great success in our beta testing program, and we are going to continue to do that moving forward. Some of the suggestions that came up during those times were greatly influential and led to choices in the user experience. So thank you for the feedback that you give. And if you're starting a company or an app, we eagerly flag promising projects to the attention of marketing, and some of those will be tweeted and promoted to our global following. So you can DM me on the forum, and my email will be up on a later slide. Transparency is a leading value here at Storj. We're continuing to grow a deep integration between the company and the community. And one way that we do that is each week the entire community team has a standing meeting with the CTO, COO, and Director of Product Marketing, as well as 1 to 2 product managers. We use this opportunity to share what we've learned in the forums, work on removing blockers for our community members, and discuss sprint plans. We're able to do this because the company has a rock-solid commitment to the community from leadership level all the way down to IC. As we close out this town hall, I'd like to suggest some ways that people can get more involved with the community, and I hope to hear from you. If you'd like to suggest a collaboration, feel free to get in touch with me. My email is jocelyn@storj.io, or DM me in the forum. And if you'd like to submit a feature request, please go to the forum and make your feature request in the ideas and suggestions category. The benefit of doing it there is these suggestions are validated and receive social proof from other community members because they're votable. So you can see your feature requests get voted up in real time. And this also helps our product folks understand which suggestions are the most popular. Finally, we've been getting some really great suggestions on marketing, partnership, and biz dev. We'd love to continue to hear those. And if you would like to help us promote, you can get in touch with us at the email address on this screen. If you know a blog that we should be in, a podcast that we should be on, or a community that we should be collaborating with, let us know, and we will happily reach out and make those connections. We want to share the great news about Storj as much as we can and show DCS to as many people as possible. And thank you to the community. We couldn't do it without you. We are so grateful for the support and enthusiasm that you bring. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.